Today's show is a little different than what we usually talk about. We're talking all about moving to Oregon, but more specifically to Salem, Oregon. And the reason we decided to do this show today is because, like I said, we've worked with a good amount of relocation buyers over our time who have moved to our area from other states. So we're going to take a handful of the most common questions and things that we get asked about from them about our area and answer them to the best of our ability. And that's mainly for our listeners online. But if you're listening on the radio, then you're most likely local to our area. And our hope is that you find today's show helpful and interesting, even though you're not someone who's thinking about moving here. We're going to talk about some other things too, like, different sides of towns. If you're thinking about buying a home here, school districts, all kinds of stuff that even if you are someone who already lives here, you're going to want to know about this as well. And lastly, to finish off this really long intro, if you are somebody who maybe you have a friend or a family member who you're trying to convince to move to our area, you want them to live closer to you, you want them to enjoy our beautiful state as well, then find this episode online. You can find it on whatever podcast you listen to podcasts at, or on YouTube, Real Estate with Mariah and Spenc, and send this over to them.
And there's a lot of naysayers out there, though. When you look up videos about why you should move to Oregon, there's also a lot of videos about why not to move to Oregon. So if you're out there listening on YouTube and you just don't agree with things we have to say, just leave that aside, okay? Because there's a lot of nasty comments you can make and a lot of naysayers out there. But personally, I love our state. I'm an Oregonian. I was born here in Salem, and Mariah, she was born here in Salem too. This is our home, and we truly, really do love Oregon. And in specific, since we do live in Salem, we are going to talk about Salem a lot today as well.
That's correct. Believe it or not, a good majority of our clients who we've worked with who have relocated to our area from other states are people who have actually never been to Oregon when they decided to move here, or even like I just closed on a house. They never, I think they were from Iowa, and they never have been to Oregon until the day that their closing date. That's their first time coming here.
I can't believe that actually happens, but it does happen. It does.
I could not imagine personally going to another, deciding to move to another state.
So without getting too personal, what was their motivation to do that?
Well, they decided to move here because they were able to work from anywhere with their jobs now, and they heard Oregon was beautiful with, all the nature and the trees, and
it's a new experience.
Yeah,
that
it
we
looked
as
a lot
brokers
different than where they were from, that side of the country, and
we as brokers, though, we're starting to get this new wave of clientele as well, and that's because of this era we're in over the last 2 years of what's been happening all around us nationwide and globally. We're able to work from home, and we're able to have internet access in areas that maybe weren't possible previously, and we're able to use resources now that can go out of state. So you can be working, living in Oregon, but doing work for who knows, in Tennessee, and that's where a lot of clients, they're enjoying this part of their life. And it's because of their work situations. Their bosses, their employers are saying, yeah, you're not stuck here anymore. We don't have an office space for you anymore. Because a lot of businesses, they've decided to not go back to the office. They've said, I think we're more productive as well, just having you work from home. Are you happy there? And then if you're not, of course, they're going to provide you with some type of resources. But that's just what we're looking at right now when it comes to buyers that are moving from out of state, is they need knowledge, firstly, about what is Salem all about? What's this specific area? And we're going to get into that, I think, next, right?
Absolutely. So what I was going to ask is, what are some things that, someone in that position should know about our area before moving here? And one of them, I just had a call from a potential buyer who's thinking about moving to our area. They've actually never been here, from San Diego, so not even that far away, but they've never been here. And the whole call, they had a lot of questions. 90% of those questions revolved around pumping your own gas, because they'd never been here. Never done it. We're one of the 2 states that you don't do that. So yeah, only 2 states. I think New Jersey is the other one. So to us, that's something that's like, well, duh, like it's so everyday normal, but
it's a luxury.
Yeah, but for other people, that aren't from here, I thought that was kind of funny. But
it's an economy booster too. It provides employment.
I agree.
Or statewide. But no, that is a valid question. But just saying, we grew up here. We don't think about that. And I'm sure Warren's like that too. I get into Washington, I get into California, and I sit in my car for a few minutes, and nobody's coming. And
I thought I was the only one.
I literally have done that so many times.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
And because Washington's right across,
it's so
the
close,
Columbia,
but,
and
yeah,
things change very, very dramatically.
I love not getting out of my car when it's pouring down rain, and
oh yeah, if you're wearing a suit, like if you're wearing nice clothing, like come on, I couldn't imagine having to pump my own gas and worry about getting gasoline on my clothes.
Yeah,
that'd be the end of the world for me. I got to go get a dry clean now. Okay, other than gas though, was there anything else?
Another thing
that was new to me
another thing that seems super obvious to us because we're so used to it. But again, we're one of I think it's 5 states only that don't have sales tax.
Oh, okay.
So that's another thing people, that maybe haven't been to Oregon and are thinking about moving here aren't aware of.
And for those that don't really know what sales tax is, if you're a young listener, sales tax is say you go to the store, whatever the candy bar says it is, so 89 cents, that's what's going to cost you. It's only going to cost you 89 cents. Now in the other states, they're going to actually have a tax that's going to cost more than 89 cents, and that's part of that sales tax. And we don't have sales tax here in Oregon, which if you're coming from a state that does, it's kind of nice. But in this modern day, a lot of us were using cards. We're not really using exact change, exact cash, so it doesn't really affect us much. But I do notice when I go into California or Washington, things cost more due to that tax. And it is nice being an Oregonian and not having that sales tax. And whatever it says it is what I'm paying.
It is. Another thing I know, if I was moving somewhere I'd never been to, I would want to know is the population. So the population in Salem as of now is just over 169,000 people.
That doesn't count Kaiser, though, does it?
Does not count Kaiser. No, I can't remember what Kaiser is, but that's
over
only
30.
Salem. Yeah.
So we're well over 200,000 when you combine the two.
Mm-hmm. So what are a couple of quick pros and cons, in our opinion, of living here?
Yeah, so let's get a little personal for me. Pros for me, living in the Middle Willamette Valley, we are so centered to basically do anything in my eyes. We can go to the coast. I can go to the dunes, ride my dirt bike quad. I can go to the mountains. True. I can go snowboarding or ski. I can go to a volcano if I'd like. We have beautiful national forests all around us with waterfalls, a lot of hikings, but also let's not forget the lakes. We have Foster Lake. We have Detroit Lake. All of these things are huge attractions for people that are not only living in Oregon, but for people that are traveling to Oregon. This is something where you want to do at least one of these outdoor adventurous activities and really understand why the beauty and nature side of Oregon is so important to us.
Can you imagine living out in the Midwest and just thinking, I'm a long ways from anything that's recreational like we have?
There's just no way.
And
we're so blessed, though, where we live, where we were born, to just have these. And they're all about 45 minutes to an hour and a half away.
Well, that's so crazy. You fly in an airplane over to the East Coast, and there are areas where you're flying where it's just flat as far as you can see. You can't, even when you're 30,000 feet in the air, you still can't see any hills or mountains or anything.
Yeah, and the fact that you're touching on when you're flying, what you're seeing overhead, when you're flying into Oregon or even getting off of the airplane at PDX, Portland Airport, you notice the air. You notice how much fresher the air is. And I'm not the only one saying this. We've talked about it with plenty of people, our friends, family members.
It's so true. Every time we go to another state, I totally notice that.
It's a refreshing air, and you can actually breathe, and it's not muggy, it's not humid. It's just, I don't know. It's maybe just good for your lungs. And
maybe it's all the trees.
Do we know if our life expectancy is a little bit higher?
Oh, I would hope so.
I would hope so, too.
I don't know.
So
before we get into explaining the different sides of town for anyone thinking about moving here or someone who maybe already lives here and is trying to decide where to purchase a house at and what that would look like, we're going to talk just a little bit about the school ratings in here. So I'm not going to get into specifics, but if you go on to schooldigger.com I wish you could see what I'm looking at right here, but I'll do my best to explain it. But if you go to schooldigger.com, you're able to see what I'm looking at. And that is basically just a map of where the highest and the lowest rating of schools are. And what I always tell people who are thinking about moving here is just like it shows on the map, the highest rated schools, so that's the green and yellow means it's the highest rating on here. Those are all in South and West Salem. And then we have Central Salem and North Salem. There's a couple green schools throughout. You can definitely find them, but the majority of them are the orange and red, which is the lowest rating. So not to say, in Northeast Salem, you can't find a good school. That's not the case. But overall, this is kind of what we're seeing as far as the map goes, that the highest rating are going to be West Salem and South Salem. Also, to add to that real quick, there are really good private schools in every side of town, no matter what side of town it is that you're looking in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a great statistic. And often I get talked and asked about, hey, is it safe for me to live in this area? And for the most part, my reply is, we don't live in the mean streets, okay? If that makes sense. If I could paint a picture for somebody of a mean street, I personally have never actually lived on a mean street or, I guess, visited a rough neighborhood. Now, of course, there's some neighborhoods that are worse off than others. Okay, right. We can put it that way. But if we're talking crime ratings, do I have to worry about someone stealing from me on my way out to my car to go to work? Am I afraid to walk to my car alone? For the most part, I'm going to tell you no.
Yeah. If we're comparing it to other places, that is,
Exactly.
I would say it's pretty
exactly.
safe.
And so when we talk about crime rates, are you safe here in Salem or the outer towns? Of course, I think you're going to be safe. Now, is there crimes that happen? Yes, that's everywhere across the nation, though. But from my experiences, are you going to be held at gunpoint at any time if you walk out of your house, going to your car, or coming home from work, or to your car from work? No.
Yeah.
That generally doesn't happen. Now there's those loose cannons eventually, but we can't control that.
Happen anywhere
can't
too.
do anything
you
about
just
that.
never know.
Yeah.
So getting to just explaining briefly the different sides of town for someone who maybe has never been here. So first of all, there's South Salem, and this is where you're going to find, like I said, you have some of the highest rated schools in South Salem. You're also going to find the highest average home price. It's a very desirable area. There's a lot of diversity in the neighborhoods. You're going to find some really beautiful, mature neighborhoods with older, really, well taken care of, custom older homes that aren't cookie cutter, with beautiful trees. And you're also going to see new construction neighborhoods, and there's just a very wide variety of what you're going to see in South Salem.
And it's always going to be green for the most part. It's we love to preserve our nature around me, our woodscapes, that type of stuff. And so for the most part, we're going to get a lot of oak trees, a lot of fir trees.
Yeah, lots of beautiful trees.
And we have a lot of public parks.
Oh, yeah.
For the most part. I do want to touch on pet friendly, how pet friendly our state is. We are one of the most pet friendly states across the nation. I saw a video, statistically, we had over 326 pet-friendly restaurants.
Wow.
Out there. I saw that on a video. In Oregon
wow.
alone. Now, if you just need your pet, a companion animal, now come on, that is really cool.
That is pretty cool.
Me personally, I'm just not bringing my dog into the restaurant, but for some people, they need their dog in the restaurant, and that's important to some people.
Yeah, I just did that yesterday with my friend and her puppy. We sat outside at a restaurant, and it was all good.
Well,
very
a hot day like we've had, you wouldn't want to leave it out in the car.
No,
so.
that's for sure.
And what's really neat is while you're out and about on your walks, there's a lot of stations for the dogs alone, for their own water station, and to pick up their droppings, stuff like that. They do have routine pickup stations, which is nice, and it keeps the landscapes nice. And obviously, you do it. You don't just leave it and keep walking. It's up to you to do it. So, but very pet-friendly state we live in.
That is very true. So, as I was saying, highest average price point. I think I just saw somewhere, this kills me to say because this is just so ridiculous, but the average price point in Salem, not all of Salem, just in South Salem, is just about $500,000 right now, which is insane.
What?
Don't be alarmed. It's not all of
What?
Salem. You can definitely find something, cheaper than that. But for just South Salem, and like I said, it is the highest price point area in our town. So that's a little crazy. But then we have West Salem, which, strangely enough, this is where most of our relocation buyers move to, and I think it's because a lot of them have families, so having good school ratings is important, and they can get more for their money. So
and
it's
she
either
needs
that or
more
South
for your money
Salem.
though, because it's part of a different county, Polk County, because it's across the river, and so you got to cross a bridge to get to West Salem. And the property taxes tend to be a lot lower over in West Salem, as well as their units. The residential units, they cost just a little bit less.
Yes. Continuing on with explaining the different sides of town, if you are maybe trying to decide which area you should buy a house in or move to, as we were talking about West Salem. So just to add on to that, quick recap, we said there's great schools in West Salem. They're actually known for their top-rated schools. A lot of people move there just because of that. Also, you're going to find the average price in West Salem is just a little bit lower than in South Salem. So also a desirable area. You're a little bit closer to the beach. Also, you're very close to downtown Salem. So you're going to have a really easy commute if you work anywhere downtown, at the Capitol, at the Salem Hospital, there's plenty of places. So the biggest downside that I hear from people who are not wanting to live in West Salem is pretty much all because of the bridge. So if you're not from here, there is a bridge that separates West Salem from the rest of Salem. It can get pretty trafficky around the usual traffic times, the morning and commutes. But other than that, I've never found it to be too big of a deal. I just avoid it during those times, and it's really not bad.
I feel like traffic to us is a lot different than other people in other states.
If you're coming here from a city, you're going to be like, what? Traffic? Because for us, like, people here will complain about it. But if you've lived anywhere else that's, it's really not bad.
We're not talking stuck in traffic for us.
No, not at all. It's a quick bridge. Like,
there's a lot of ways to get around your traffic hassle in Salem.
Yes.
So, there's a lot of ways to avoid it.
And our worst traffic here is not anything compared to plenty of other places. So, all right. And then we have Central Salem. So Central Salem, you do have, like we just saw on the map, that I was talking about from schooldigger.com, is that it does have some of the lower rated schools, if that's important to you, if you're talking about public schools. And you're going to have a little bit higher crime rating, but there are some absolutely beautiful, breathtaking, historic neighborhoods in Central Salem that you really can't find anywhere else. And another thing to add on to this is it's one of the really only, Salem's not really a walkable town, and it's one of the only places in Salem that's truly walkable, in my opinion. You can walk plenty of places downtown if you live in Central Salem, and that's what I find. I have clients who are retirees moving here from other areas, and they want to live in a historic home and be able to walk places. That's usually who I'm seeing is wanting to move there. Yeah,
and on top of walking, Oregon is known for being one of the most bike-friendly states in the nation.
That's very true.
Now, if you go to Portland, even in Salem, we mimic a lot of things Portland does, and it's so bike friendly. We know multiple people that bike from home to work every day. They don't need a car, and that is one thing that's really cool and relevant, though, especially now. Gas prices are going up. Okay, if you got a big gas tank, big diesel, it's going to cost you over $100. And the fact that you could just bike to the store and back in your house is really important to a lot of people. And if you're living in Central Salem, downtown Salem, even a branch in Southeast Salem, biking it's so normal to see, and it's so friendly. that it's not dangerous if you get on your bike and get on the road at the same time.
That's true. And then the next thing is, or the next side of town is Northeast Salem. So what I love about Northeast Salem, we actually lived there. That was where we bought our first ever house right after we got married. And what I loved about living there was how close it was to Kaiser. I would go to the Kaiser station all the time, and it was just as close to go to the Kaiser station than it was to go to many of other businesses that were also in North Salem. So easy access to a lot of our clients will move to North Salem if they work in Portland because it's right off I-5, and it's going to be, on that side of town that's closer to Portland. So easy commute.
And I think I-5 just in general is a huge benefit to all of the communities around us. The fact that it goes all the way to Canada through California, I mean, it is the longest, isn't it the longest?
I think so.
I mean, in the nation. Once again, another thing that goes through Oregon, that's number one. The fact that we are so close, and generally you're 5 to 10 minutes anywhere you live, if you're talking Salem, to get onto I-5. And that's super important, especially for commuters that work in Portland, Eugene, that work that corridor. I mean, the fact that you can do that and not be stuck in bumper to bumper traffic and it's 40 miles away to your workplace, that's a huge benefit.
So real quick, I'm not going to get into it because we're running out of time, but there are a lot of really, really great towns that are right on the outskirts of Salem as well. So there's a lot of places around here that are great communities to live in. That's a whole nother
And this will be rural living, though, if that's something that you're interested in.
USDA loans, great school districts as well.
Which I think that'll be one of our next shows. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
All right, lots of good stuff going on, no question about it. And thank you for listening to Mariah and Spenc on 1430.